um,
This meeting is
talk
being
to us,
recorded.
is really, we're all really thankful for that. You guys giving back to the Collegian is always super special to see. So without further ado, I guess we should go around and introduce the panelists. So Jordan, I don't know if you wanted to start, just like a short introduction of who you are,
Sure.
some of, how your career looked after the Collegian, maybe what you did at the Collegian, and just to get a sense of who you are and what you're bringing to the panel.
Yeah, I can go first, and hopefully quickly, and then I'll hand over to, we can go alphabetical. I'll go, then we'll go Leen, then we'll go Evan, if that makes it easiest. So hey all, hope you guys can hear me okay. Jordan Hyman, I head up advertising for the East Coast team of a company called Nativo. It's a little ironic, I guess is the word, that I'm on a Zoom panel talking to the business side, marketing side of the Collegian, because I was a journalism major at Penn State, knew nothing about advertising marketing, had no interest in it at the time. And in fact, when I was at the Collegian in the James building, there was an actual wall, a physical wall separating the newsroom, and it's probably same when you were there, Evan, and separating the newsroom from the business side. And we would poke fun at the people across the other side and say, sell some more ads, and like, we're running out of space in the print edition, because that's pretty much all we had. The digital Collegian was launched, I think, in my junior year, I want to say, at Penn State, which was, so I was there 95 to 99, graduated in 1999. Anyway, I've career-wise, again, ironically, while journalism major, I really only worked in journalism, true journalism, for a year. I guess you could call it a year and change. And then I yada wound up working at Sports Illustrated, but on their branded content side of the house. Or custom content side of the house, which is not something that I knew anything about when I left school. I wasn't properly trained. I'm not sure that there was proper training for it then. I think there is something closer to that now. And I basically have spent the last 20 plus years of my career in branded or custom or native content, however you want to look at it, working at places like SI, Fortune, Bloomberg for about 5 years, the Wall Street Journal, NBC Universal, and then again, currently at a company called Nativo, which is basically a native ad server. We think of us as an Airbnb of publishers. We distribute content from brands at scale across hundreds of publisher partners, and we do it natively, which if you're interested, I can drill into more of that later or offline. I'm going to hand to Leen and let her tell her glowing story of being awake at 2 a.m. and drinking Red Bull, which is not the sponsor of the Zoom.
Yeah, definitely don't drink a lot of Red Bull. I don't recommend doing that. But hi, I'm Leen. I was at the Daily Collegian from 2014 to 2018. So I spent my entire college career at the Daily Collegian. I worked in sales and then became the business manager. And then right after college, I joined Flytedesk, which is the company that I still work at. And Flytedesk is a technology firm, and we build technology that allows national advertisers to place ads across hundreds of college media organizations at once. We also build technology that helps college media organizations drive revenue locally. And that's my spiel. Thank you.
I guess that's, I'll close it out. Hi, I'm Evan Spector. I did not work at the Daily Collegian, believe it or not. The Daily Collegian, when I was at Penn State, was just a newspaper. I was there from 91 to 95. So that makes me the resident old guy on the panel, I guess. So my career path, I've worked in advertising agencies since I graduated from college. That was not what I studied. That was not my major. I was a Bachelor of Arts Economics major. Halfway through my studies, I guess you could say, I decided that I really didn't like economics or finance, but pretty much everybody coming out of the 80s and going into college in the 90s wanted to be an investment banker. So I wanted to be an investment banker, and then realized that I really didn't like it at all. My two favorite classes were Com 150 and Com 100, which then set me off onto a path into media, marketing, and advertising. I come from a long line of advertising people in my family. My father worked at an advertising agency. My sister worked at an advertising agency. I know this sounds a little bit like my cousin Vinny. My cousin works in an advertising agency. My other cousin owns a small digital advertising agency. So and my niece graduated from Indiana University in May, and she works at an advertising agency. So you could say it runs in my blood, but yeah, so I've seen when I started back in 95, there was no web. We basically planned media in television, radio, out of home, local and digital. And then about like everyone in 2000, the internet popped up and the World Wide Web. And I think I was one of the first people to do an advertising buy on what is now referred to as ESPN.com, but used to be, I think, sportszone.com. Way back in, I think it was like 97 or 98, we did their NCAA tournament challenge. So that's sort of my little spiel and claim to fame. But I'm looking forward to talking to you guys and answering any questions you have.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. So obviously you guys bring a wealth of experience to the table and definitely are in different kind of stages of your career. I guess I want to start with you, Evan. We have some people here that are in the marketing department and I think are really interested in gaining some agency experience, and anybody else can hop on this question. But what kind of attracted you? Obviously, you didn't study that in school, but what kind of attracted you, other than I guess a lot of your family was involved with it, to kind of go into that? And how did you you kind of spoke on it briefly, but what went into being able to be kind of the first on that big jump in 2000 to kind of a strong web presences for agencies?
Yeah, so good question. I think to me, what drew me to marketing or mass media is I love pop culture. I mean, that's it. It's a love of pop culture. I love magazines. I loved watching TV. I loved listening to music. I had an inherent interest in media. I was not a journalism major. I was not a communications major, as I said, but when you work at an agency and you go into what's known as media planning or strategic planning, back when I started, you were what I would consider media adjacent. So basically at an agency, we would have a product. So let's say I worked, back then on Visa. We were given a marketing problem that we had to solve for. Obviously we wanted to get them to have more cards in force in the world. We would build target profiles for them. And then where it became media adjacent is we had to match their message with a consumer, with their lifestyles and behaviors, and find media that would interest them. And back in the, let's call it the early 90s or the late 90s, it was really limited in what you could and couldn't do. We called it what we would call spots and dots. The innovation was really had in what I would say was product placement. You could do what's commonly, which Jordan calls native content. Way back when we called it sponsored content, advertorial content. And at that time, the web was at its infancy and nobody really knew what to do with it. And in fact, the deal that I was referring to with the NCAA really came out of a discussion with our television buy. So at the beginnings of the World Wide Web, believe it or not, everything came off of something else. So if you were doing a television buy on ESPN, they were like, hey, do you want to slide some money into this thing over here that we don't really have any data on, believe it or not. And it was sort of like test and learn, see what happens. And we all know what happens. And, looking back on, my career for 25 years, the reason why I've stayed at the advertising agency is I just think it's fun. It keeps me where I want to be, which is at the forefront of technology, innovation, and marketing. And really, it aligns with my passions around consumer behavior and pop culture. And, currently, I should have said, I work on Novartis on their Cosentyx drug. And, I've worked on everything from pharma, which is I worked on Allergan, now Novartis. I've worked on Unilever, which is CPG, like Dove and Tresemme. I've worked in the financial category with American Express and Visa. I've worked on food like Pizza Hut. The thing about pharma is that with the advertising that we're doing and that I'm trying to make sure that people see is really, it's life-changing for people. I know that sounds all high and mighty, but the fact of the matter is there are people that are suffering from certain conditions, life-threatening conditions, or waiting for a diagnosis. And it's my job to make sure that they know about the products and the treatments that are available to them. So that's what keeps me going.
Yeah, that's definitely very interesting. Seeing advertising, being utilized in a field like that is not something you often think about the importance of. Jordan or Leen, did you have anything on what kind of brought you to your final, or I guess it might not be your final, but your start, maybe for you, Leen, the role you're in right now, and I guess maybe like the best part of it for you?
Yeah, I think so. My experience at the Daily Collegian obviously influenced my career path. Funny enough, Flight Desk used to place advertisements with the Daily Collegian. That's how I got connected with them. They still do. They still place a lot of ads. But essentially, so I was a finance major at Penn State. I did not think I was going to end up in this career path at all. I thought I was going to work at a bank or some financial firm. But then I joined the Daily Collegian, really enjoyed the work that we were doing there. Interned at a tech firm in my junior year. And then when Flight Desk came about, it was kind of like, honestly, like a merge between both worlds for me. It was like the perfect opportunity. But kind of like what we were talking about with Evan here, it's really fun working on the advertising side. There's a lot of different opportunities that you get. There's a lot of challenges that you face day to day. So for example, I remember we worked on the presidential campaign for Biden. And my team and I, we work at a tech firm. So we're used to kind of, doing the digital, the influencer, the email. And then we were faced with a challenge that was kind of unique, where we needed to get more students to vote. So we came up with a plan to send voter registration packets to every college media dorm or anywhere we could get access to students at all of the purple states. I don't want to say Biden won because of us, but we sent those voter registration packets that all the students had to do was fill them out and then mail them back. They were paid for as well, and so they made things super easy. But for the team and I think those are the types of challenges that we find really exciting. Like those are the things that keep us going, even though it's really difficult to haggle with college media organizations across the US to get them to place an ad and all the ads that go wrong. I think at the end of the day, when we see the results of the work that we're doing and the revenue that college media organizations are making out of those national campaigns, it's really enticing for us.
I have to laugh, by the way, because to Evan's point earlier, sometimes we'll joke in the industry that like we're not landing planes or we're not curing cancer, and then to Evan's point, like while it's not curing, you're putting information that's helping people to basically either move toward a better lifestyle or help them with a condition. So it's about as close as you can get. And I'll note on my end, I was and am very passionate about just telling good stories wherever they come from, finding them, telling them, curating them, you name it. And honestly, I found early on that the skills that I learned largely at the Collegian, and I'll give maybe 70-30 credit Collegian and 30 to the College of Comms since there's no Belisario people on, and I did go to class sometimes, and with that together, I learned a lot of skills that I found are actually more valuable, believe it or not, on the other side of the house. And so like early days, thinking back to the Time Inc. days of SI, or when I moved over to Fortune, the ability to like help an advertiser at that point, help a brand think about like what was their story, how to tell their story, how to come up with something that was either new and maybe build that and run that as a way to elevate their brand, or integrate. I mean, at NBCU, we did more what I would call integration, like taking a brand and finding a smart way to integrate them into the IP of This Is Us or Sunday Night Football, or whatever it would be. But that like storytelling and all the fun that kind of comes with it. I mean, yes, it's advertising, but I kind of never did and still never really think about it as pure advertising, because if you talk about being, the ad world, sometimes it has a certain connotation. I've preferred to, whatever my title has been, to live within the land of how do we come up with like an interesting story? What are we going to do beyond just kind of driving clicks and eyeballs? What is the brand going to learn? What are they going to get from it? And all that is what kind of keeps it interesting and fresh. It's like, you know, every single project, Evan could call tomorrow and say, we've got this new challenge and we've got a new product or a new condition that we're working on. How do you solve it? How do you get, you know, a caregiver or a patient or a parent to take notice and to lean in and to learn and take action? That's sort of the everyday of what I do. And again, the skills I found from the comm side of the house are very applicable, in part because, you know, out in the real world, if you can tell a good story, if you can craft a good idea or a good presentation, and if you can present it well, and, you know, just sort of the basic communication skills, believe it or not, it actually goes a long way.
Yeah, that's awesome. What I noticed is that you guys really stay in what you're doing because of a couple of things. One, you guys all love telling stories, like you said, Jordan. And then the second one, you guys love to solve problems. I mean, every day there seems like there's a new problem that comes up in your guys's jobs or fields. So I guess the question would be, going into that problem solving or storytelling, is there one specific skill that maybe you were able to cultivate in college or maybe after college that has kind of stood the test of time, as something that you've needed throughout your entire career, going into storytelling or going into advertising and, you know, solving problems every day? And if that's like a skill maybe you could share with us that maybe we can start working on, or maybe there's an experience that kind of made you realize that you needed that skill going forward.
Man, this one's tough. It's definitely like I could hedge my way through this a bunch, but maybe I'll spit one out and then I'll hot potato it. But
Okay.
while my wife would disagree that I possess this skill, I do think that that being a very good listener is a big part of it. And I say that because that to me is a connector into, you know, let's think of like the proverbial brainstorm. You know, when you guys work in groups now at the Collegian, or when, you know, when an agency team gets together to think about a brief, or a brand team gets together, like it's not just one person that's talking over, or at least it shouldn't be, over everyone else. And often it's listening, you know, as a team, it's listening to what in our world, what a client or a colleague or my boss says, and then proving that you listened either by the follow-up question you ask, or frankly, by what you ultimately submit. You know, does the idea that you submit prove that you listened to what someone said they needed from you? And I just think that's you know, that's a reporter's skill, obviously. You know, did you listen to the response to the question such that you got the quote right, such that you told the story right, you got the facts right? I think it's the same in trying to figure out a great story. You know, a lot of it starts with listening, and then all the sort of the ancillary skills, asking great questions, follow up, you know, the communication skills, the brainstorm skills, and all that wraps around it. I think that's core. And if you can do that well, you know, active listening, it will also take you a long way.
I guess I'll go. I think for me, similar to Jordan, I would say that the skill that gets me the furthest, I think, is really the one that it's asking the right question, number one, and number two, being, I guess, not afraid to fail. You have to try. And I think asking a lot of questions, I think, you know, especially in Jordan, if Jordan sends us a proposal and we evaluate it, the things that we always have to do is understand it, read through it, evaluate it, and then ask why, or how is this going to help, or what's the goal here, and does it fit a specific need? You know, I think early in my career, I didn't want to fail. I didn't want to speak up. So it took a while to realize that it's okay to fail, because failing once or twice gives you the confidence to actually maybe find a better solution or succeed. So I think for me, that's what it was. And then I think when you graduate, the one piece of advice I always give people is be a deer in a headlight and be a sponge. Because I think when you go into your first job, you are new, but you're new in a way that you're what we would call green. You're a person who hasn't been tarnished or beaten down by the man or anything like that. And there's an enthusiasm, and that enthusiasm to learn, I would say, is infectious. And then I think why I say to be a sponge is because, like Jordan said, it's listening versus hearing. It's absorbing what's going on around you and being able to learn from people that may be in the meeting that you never really interact with, understand what they're talking about. And then maybe if you don't understand it, you go back to your boss or your boss's boss, and then you have like 5 questions to ask about, hey, I really didn't understand what they were talking about audience building, or I really didn't understand what they were talking about when they were talking about a KPI, a key performance indicator. It's okay, but at least it shows you were listening, sponge, and you were a deer in a headlight. So that's my advice.
For me, I think, well, I got lucky. I ended up in sales at the Daily Collegian somehow, and that gave me a bunch of skills that I still find very useful today. Two main skills I think pop out for me. Number one is negotiation skills. I think I really got better at that during the Daily Collegian. I think working in a sales or client-facing role as early on in your career as possible is helpful in many ways, even if it's just, working at a restaurant, part-time, just, getting comfortable with talking to people you don't know, and also, negotiating with them or getting them to do the thing that you want them to do is really helpful. So I think that I acquired that at the Daily Collegian, and I still find that very helpful today. But also, by the way, highly recommend reading a book called Never Split the Difference if you want to improve your negotiation skills. It's a requirement at my company when you join my team, and it's because it's basically a terrorist negotiator that teaches you how to convince people to do what you want them to do. So he's really good at what he does, but also just being comfortable talking to random people, that approaching people that I didn't know, is something I acquired at the Daily Collegian, and I find that very helpful today. It helped me find a job. It got me, when we were at any of those career events at Penn State, I was very comfortable walking up to them, introducing myself, and just, I think that I acquired that at the Daily Collegian, and working in a client-facing role specifically has really helped me and still helps me today.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you guys so much for sharing. One of the main topics tonight is monetizing digital platforms. And Leen, I know you have a lot of experience in that field. So I would like to come to you first, and anybody else can answer this, but just kind of like, at Flight Desk, you guys work with, college media and helping them monetize their products and their platforms. So kind of like explain that process, or that some of the experience that you have in that, and what do you like about this kind of ability to monetize digital platforms?
Well, it's really fun, but I think Flight Desk is really good at finding products that exist today and creating new products, but monetizing products that exist today in unique ways. So one of the things that I think we did really well, specifically in the digital space, is we created this sort of closed network where a national advertiser, essentially, if they wanted to reach a college media student, they had to kind of go through Flight Desk and the college media organization to get the digital ad on the website. And the way we did that is through, we convinced hundreds of college media organizations to place what we call Flight Desk premium digital units, which were, first of all, ads that were designed to accrue a lot of eyeballs. So that helped, drive in more revenue to the college media organizations. There were also standard IAB, which means that they fit industry standards, and they were their same ads placed in the same spot across hundreds of college media organizations at once. And when we created this closed network for these college media organizations, we were able to charge more for the impressions. Because if you couldn't go through Google AdSense anymore. If you wanted the ad on the college media website, you had to work with us in the college media organization. And so we were able to charge and offer college media $15 CPMs when the industry average is 2.8. And Davis and I are actually trying to push a similar project within Penn State, where we're trying to kind of consolidate. We're still talking about it, so you're all going to hear more about this. But we're trying to consolidate the college media organizations into one college media hub, basically, where if someone wanted to place an ad and reach a Penn State student, they would have to work with this like organization, which is essentially like conglomerate between the Daily Collegian and the newspaper, the radio station, the magazine, and the yearbook. And so that would give, well, first of all, would give the Daily Collegian and the sales team access to a lot more digital assets, but it also creates that closed network. So if someone wanted to reach a college media campus, that's how they would do it. And potentially it would kill Onward State because they cannot compete with 4 college media organizations offering products across all of these organizations. So we'll see, but highly recommend, creating those sort of closed networks because I think that's what college media needs today.
This is going to be the most boring and obvious of answers I'll just tack on, but I mean, I guess let me back up. I mean, my world in branded content, I know the Collegian has tried, and probably has done some monetizing of branded content on TDC. I think that's an opportunity, just without a doubt, because again, who better, especially with 1865 Studio up and running. I mean, to me, who better to create content targeted at the students specifically, but even the alumni readers of the Digital Collegian than the students themselves who work at the Collegian. And so again, I think if you've got 2 or 3 great examples, you use those to sell the next 2 or 3. I think you sell it as a series. I think you sell video to charge a higher cost. You could bundle it into the package or bundle it into the production that is into your CPMs. I think that's a money-making opportunity for you. And you could charge even more, obviously, if you wanted to license or let the brand own the content that the studio creates. So that to me remains low-hanging fruit, without a doubt, considering the audience and the expertise. And then, I know the Collegian has done a far better job in recent years than any time when I was there, creating content for I'll call it new and not so new and emerging and not so emerging platforms. But I don't know, and you guys would know better than me, like, is the Collegian fully monetizing, its presence right now on YouTube and what's happened across, TikTok even, and some of the podcast work that you guys do, and Twitter. Like, are there opportunities? I'm guessing there are, to, even if you're bundling some of that content together and selling it, batched, or selling it a day at a time, a week at a time, takeover style to make money on content, because that's where your audience is. Obviously, people don't, this isn't rocket science. People don't bookmark websites anymore necessarily. They might bookmark a story or a page. They find you the way they want to find you. It's through search, it's through social, pretty much, push alerts. And so you want to be where they are. And that to me means being wherever Collegian content is. You want to monetize that. And I'm guessing right now, again, you guys know better than me, that the lion's share of your digital revenue is probably still off of the website proper, and not so much off of all the places that you're creating and syndicating content. I know that's probably where I consume most Collegian digital content, is not necessarily on the site itself, but probably as I've come in through a push alert, social, or search. So think about the users, think about the people on this call and all the students, and what they're doing mostly on their phones, I would imagine, and how they're consuming your content, and trying to insert opportunities for brands to own part of that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the most exciting, I think, steps we've taken to kind of accomplishing that goal is we just got our first podcast sponsor for the 1 0 podcast. So local businesses sponsoring our content like that is definitely something that we're really looking towards. And also, like you said, syndicating content is definitely the future. If you look at just to use a podcast, for example, any famous podcast, not only will they post their podcasts on YouTube or Spotify, but they'll also post a bunch of different clips on Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. So all this different pieces of content will lead back to the one long form content, but syndicating it in those clickable clicks is definitely something that we should look into, because that's definitely a trend we've been seeing.
So
yeah,
I'll just say, it's funny to hear you guys, because I'm the agency person. I don't know how to monetize. That's not my specialty, but I'm a consumer. And, I think that as a marketer, the things that we ask for, audience, scale, partnerships, right? So when I hear about what you're doing or not doing, I always think about, okay, well, how much do you know about your reader beyond, say, the college student? You know, what are you doing to target a vast alumni network? You know, you have content, well, Jordan knows this because the reason why I'm doing this is because I went to Penn State. I met Jordan in one meeting, and the cult of Penn State brought him and I together.
There you go.
Tap that network. Figure out who you can, who's in your network, who works at Barstool Sports, PSU Barstool. Don't be afraid to partner with those sites because they have audience and they have scale. Then look at your audience and figure out, well, are we just in the student business, or are people that have graduated, and what years have they graduated, and are they coming in? Because then that puts you not only in, I think, this collegiate media target, but if you were able to monetize your different audiences, then you could probably work and then bring in, dare I say, you know, I like when I said earlier, I came into media to be media adjacent. Now I just think I'm tech adjacent. So to me, I would say, what are you doing to build out your audiences? Have you found private marketplaces to sell your ads programmatically to different audiences that aren't necessarily the core? If you build it, they will come, is my logic on this part. And I'm learning more and more about it as I've made a career shift, in that if you could figure out a tech company to work for and set up a private marketplace, you have content. Everybody wants content. Everybody wants audience. So I don't necessarily have to sit here and be like, I want to reach a college student. I want to reach someone who has a specific disease. And let's say that disease is rheumatoid arthritis. If that person is reading the Daily Collegian, they are in my target audience. But I'm not looking specifically for someone in college. So that's the mindset that you have to kind of think about now. And then I would say to you, like you just said, monetize your local businesses. Reach out to them for sponsorships, do events, experiences. That's another way to monetize your audience. I know they're expensive, but I'm sure you're doing, I would imagine you are. I think you did it when I was there, like tailgating events. Bring people together. Sure, you know, but get an advertiser or a company to actually fund it. And then do a podcast, do a live podcast, do a live read. There's tons of stuff you could be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are all really fantastic ideas that I'm definitely gonna keep in mind going forward. I know that, like you were saying, our consumer analysis or building consumer profiles is a huge step that we should take into kind of reanalyzing what kind of target we're looking for, and not just generalizing it to be just a college student, but what's their major, what's their year, what are they interested in. I think our readers are definitely, we have the reader that will see a notification casually pop up, click on it, and then maybe that's the only time that the Collegian ends up, you know, in their web browser. But then we also have really dedicated people that are going to be following their friends' articles or reading every single day. So I think that's a really good point. But another big topic tonight would definitely be, as college students, one of the biggest stressors obviously is finding a job right after we graduate, or hopefully soon after. Maybe you guys can kind of give us a little bit of insight into where the job market right now is, in terms of kind of like specifically maybe in your field. What's kind of something that we can do? You know, we're trying to gain as much experience, internships obviously, but maybe something that somebody might not think of right off the bat.
So I don't mean to monopolize time, but I
No,
recently
you're going first. You're going first.
Yeah, I recently went through a job search. So after working at my company and job for 19 years, I unfortunately was job eliminated. I was out of work for 5 months, give or take. It was fine. But here's the thing that I've learned. One, LinkedIn. Even if you're in college, build a LinkedIn page. As soon as you get off this call, connect with everyone that's on this panel. See who they're connected with, because the network works. Number two, don't be, use connections, learn how to write and communicate. I think that the biggest thing that I learned is the other thing is your resume, right? When you're applying for a job, the first thing that's going to happen is your resume is going to be read by a computer looking for keywords. I can't tell you how many people said, Evan, did you hire someone to actually keyword search and make sure that your resume was HR optimized for keywords that recruiters look for? Jordan, you're smiling and laughing, but that, to me, it's the truest thing. So I would say LinkedIn, resume. There was a big debate recently about cover letters. I will be honest with you and tell you, I think when I applied, I think maybe I wrote 3 cover letters for 30 positions. They're not as important. I hate to say it. I think the way that you have to learn to sell yourself is LinkedIn. That's the cover letter.
Yeah.
So I'll turn it over to Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts here. I mean, number one, I think the good thing is whereas once upon a time, I think the career paths coming out of college were very much straight lines in the sand. You sort of had majors and like there were 3 or 4 different possibilities, and you could sort of be a bit more predictive about it. Now, I mean, number one, the lines are all over the place. And number two, that's all going to change a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. So that to me all spells opportunity for everyone on this call and everyone on your teams, Davis, right? So, we don't, TikTok is it right now, I think, maybe, but it won't be in 3 years. I'm not sure if it makes it that long. Who knows? It'll be around, I think, maybe. But right, I mean, just Facebook is gone. I mean, kind of. I think I'm the youngest person on it at this point. Look at their stock. So point being, like you can. I think it's good to have to sort of hone your skills and your passion points and to think about what you might want to do, but you don't. And it's great to have goals and dreams and hopes and all that stuff. But also, you gotta think about like where do I want to get some experience, because you can. There's going to be a lot more and probably a lot more diverse opportunity for you if you expand the possibilities and say, hey, like, here's what I'm interested in, and here's where I think this can take me. Let me just go sort of get job one. I love the LinkedIn game. That is forever, to be honest. And I also love, like, back to the listening and being aware, like pay attention to the people in your network and keep in contact with people who, you just never know, because you do never know, right? There are, I mean, I could see 5 cameras on here, but for the 5 cameras that are off, like fast forward, where are you guys going to be in 6 years, in 3 years? And so the power of like keeping in contact is like, I think back to the people that I was working with at SI in 2001 or at the Easton Express Times, which was my first job in 1999. And I've kept in contact with a lot of those people, not on a daily basis, but some of them Christmas cards, some of them, I just see what they're up to. And honestly, a lot of where I've landed has been in part, Penn State has something to do with it. In part, I think you need to, when you work very hard in job 1 or job 2 and leave an impression on people, it's going to create opportunity for you in jobs 3 and 4. It's cliched, but I think it's true. It's often what's said about you when you're not in the room that's going to make the difference. And so, you've got to work that way and act that way, that you're kind of auditioning for jobs five years from now in the first job. And that you probably already started without even realizing it. You probably impressed people, on the Collegian staff, professors, et cetera. Those are your connectors to jobs. My first job, I got through a professor. believe it or not. And I've continued to keep in touch with those people, corny as it sounds. So you've got to really work actively at being a connector, at working your network. It's not something that LinkedIn will do totally for you. You've got to pay attention to what people are up to. You've got to reach out to people. You've got to check in if they did something cool because you saw it on LinkedIn. Reach out if they produce cool content. Reach out if they've landed a new job. Say congrats. You've got to actively carve time out even now to like work your network, build your network, and stay in touch with people. And again, if you think of them, they will think of you as those opportunities arise, because there's lots of qualified people out there at the end of the day. So you've got to make your mark, be persistent. And to Leen's point earlier, when you see those opportunities, whether it's at a live event, which is, rarer these days, but when you get those opportunities, go shake a hand, go say hi, or again, send a note out to someone, send an email, hit them on, direct tweet or something and be like, hey, I see you. Cool job. Love what you're doing. Would love to keep in touch, because you'd be surprised. To Evan's point, not that many people will do the connection after an event like this, or send a thank you note, God forbid, in some cases to, after you meet someone at an event. It just, that sort of has fallen off, not just in COVID many years ago. So, be different, be unique.
I think the most important piece of advice that I will give you, that if you are in college right now, what you do in college, so I didn't have to worry about this. Jordan probably didn't have to worry about this. Facebook didn't exist, Twitter didn't exist, Instagram didn't exist, and TikTok didn't exist.
Thank God.
It exists. It is forever. Okay. I've seen people, I saw, Jordan probably, I don't know if he remembers this, there was a couple of, I think it was like last year, there was a new editor in chief. She was named at Teen Vogue. And within hours of her getting that position, somebody dug up her old tweets.
Yeah.
And they were insensitive.
Yeah.
And she ended, and they back checked, like the company did their homework on back checking. You will get a background check. But somebody, especially if you're working in the edit side, the content side, what you say matters and it will follow you. What pictures you post matter and will follow you.
Mm-hmm.
We don't you don't want to think of yourself as a brand when you're in college. That's something that we think about now. And, I've often thought about it, but you're building your brand earlier and earlier now, and that brand is going to follow you. And recruiters probably will look at, especially if you give them, hey, here's my Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter handles, they're going to look at it. And that's probably the first thing they're going to see or know. So word of caution.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I had a professor at Penn State, Professor Sasha Meinrath. I'm not sure if he's still there. Love him. But on the first day of class, he would pull up our social media handles and he would put it on the big projector screen. He couldn't find me because I didn't have my middle name. I had my middle name instead of my last name on there. He couldn't find me, but he thought that was great. But definitely pay attention to your social media and befriend your professors. I cannot explain how many opportunities that I've gotten from just chit-chatting with my professors. They've definitely helped me improve my resume. They've helped me get better at sending those LinkedIn messages. They've helped me, they've connected me with people to find internships. So definitely become friends with your professors. They're great resources. But also get really good at sending that first LinkedIn message that Evan and Jordan are talking about. I think I get a lot of the boring, hi, my name is blah, 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 I do blah, 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 and I want to do X. And I think I really wish I spent more time at Penn State, getting good at sending these messages out. You definitely want to stand out, especially in today's market. I don't want to sound like a party pooper, but there's a recession coming up. It's going to be competitive. And a lot of, and especially if you're trying to work in sort of the industry that the three of us work in, you're going to have to get a lot more skills. I'm seeing, you know, a lot of students doing the digital media trends and analytics minor. There's, you know, across not just Penn State, but across a lot of campuses. A lot of them are, you know, doing statistics, learning more about data, because whatever role you're going to do, you're going to have to rub shoulders with data at some point and metrics. And again, if you're trying to get into the industries that we work in, you want to get a little bit more comfortable with the jargon. I think if you walked around the Daily Collegian 5 years ago when I worked there and asked the students what a CPM is, 80% of us would not know. And it's horrifying to me now because half of us work in marketing and advertising today. So everyone knows what a CPM is nowadays. So definitely know what that means. And again, your professors are great resources for that. And we are. So please reach out if we can help out at all. Let us know.
Love that. Stay close to the data. Understand how to tell a story with data, because it takes a little more effort, but that's not, again, I wasn't classically trained in that. A lot of people have not been trained in that. And I feel like analytics, I could be wrong about this, but I feel like it's more accessible as a major or woven into marketing, business, comms related classes than it was then. That's just my guess.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for sharing. In these last 10 or so minutes, I wanted to open it up to Maggie, Ben, Jules, Liam, and Melissa. If you guys have any questions for any of the panelists, you can just unmute and ask. And I think that would be cool.
Don't be shy.
Okay, I saw that Evan worked at NBC Universal, and I was just wondering what it was like to work at such a big entertainment company like that.
Okay, so point of reference, I worked on their account. I didn't work at NBCU, but it was actually really cool to work on NBCU from an agency standpoint and a marketing standpoint, because the speed at which they are working and the knowledge that they bring, you were, by the time our advertising would hit, they knew within a week or two if that program was going to be a success or not. So you were constantly, it taught me how to adjust, how to be agile, how to think quickly and move on my feet, because you never knew what was going to happen on that particular day based on a show's performance. So that's the only thing I can answer about it, because I didn't work, at NBCU, but.
Okay, thank you.
Melissa, I was there for 2 years. I can give you my take. Although I didn't work like specifically on Bravo or a specific network team. I worked on behalf of a in-house branded content team that basically created digital assets, digital content. If you can find a way to get in there, whether it's as a page, which I know sounds corny from 30 Rock, but I know I have a lot of colleagues, contacts in the industry who started as a page and actually went on to do great things. If you can find, it's a great company to start at it, and they do hire out of college. I mean, you got Linda Yacarino who's there, so I mean, if you can always start at the top, but the place is loaded with Penn Staters, which doesn't hurt. When I was there, we did at least 1 or 2 like Penn State days, where we bring in students and that sort of thing. So I helped set up one of those at least at one point in time. So going through like a Laura Mullen or Linda Yacarino to start there, they've got so much scale, which was the appeal for me. So if you want to sort of learn, obviously TV, Peacock, streaming, and even just digital scale, and then the fandom, I think, as we called it, is BravoCon this week, I think that's coming up. I mean, like an event like that, a property like that, and just how much money they make off of it, and because of the allure of the characters, of the people, of the brand, they have a lot of those. They have a lot of those across sports and art and entertainment and beyond. And it's really impressive how they stitch it together. And I'll say culturally interesting place to work. Obviously, you've got 30 Rock and all that. One of the few places I've worked where clients would say, "Can I come get a tour of the building?" So like that's a real thing, still is, with a page if you can get it. Obviously, you've got like, amazing properties from an entertainment perspective, all the late night shows and all that. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a place where, again, you can go learn, you can learn a lot in a hurry. You can stay there 10 years, you can stay there 2 years. You can work within one specific brand, like a Bravo or an E, et cetera, or sports, or you can work on behalf of one of the many teams, marketing, sales, et cetera, that support the entire sales marketing org, Linda's org. So a lot of opportunity, a lot of ways in, and probably not too many friendlier orgs as it relates to Penn State landing places.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. If you need connections, let me know.
Evan, what was the most stressful part about working on so many different clients and accounts? Was there any one account that might have been the hardest or most stressful to work with?
Yes. So American Express was probably the most stressful account I've ever worked on. Not the actual work, it was the personalities. So as you said, the clients. I like to say that everything I learned in media, I learned on American Express, because they challenged us as with lexicon that you would never, like NBDB, which is like never been done before. Every media plan that we had to do had to have something that was never been done before. And then if we did it, so if we did something in the year 2021, it was no longer never been done before. So we had to raise the bar year over year over year over year. But I took that learning and I applied it to my next client, which was Unilever, which also wanted never been done before, and a leader in innovation and Dove and all of that. Where the difference is that Unilever wasn't afraid to do something again. If it worked and it was never been done before, okay, so how can we incrementally make it better? So Amex was my toughest. The thing about my day, I don't know if this is true for the other panelists, I never know what my day is going to bring. One day it could be, hey, you think you're going into planning and you're doing your media plan. The next minute, oh, we just got a $20 million budget cut. The next day it could be a $10 million incremental spend. All of a sudden, someone can see your ad running opposite controversial content and you're scrambling to pull it. God forbid, if you work on, stuff, you just never know. And that to me was exciting. But I would say, again, going back to the beginning with my speech about like listening and hearing and asking, you just always have to be prepared. I mean, that's it. I mean, at the end of the day, like Jordan said, we are not curing cancer. We are not doing brain surgery. We are doing advertising and marketing. And at the back of my head, that is always what I thought. So if I was dealing with a client who was yelling at me or screaming at me or kind of just challenging me, I kind of disarmed myself by saying, okay, whatever they need, I will get done. I don't need to elevate to their level of craziness. I will deliver what I need to do. And that's sort of what has been my guiding principle. But all that work on tough clients leads to great things. So what I would close out with is, the work on Amex took me to the work on Unilever, which then, on Unilever for Dove, we won a gold Effie, which is like, the Oscars of advertising and campaign.
Right.
We won one for media and partnerships for a campaign called Project Show Us, which was all about raising awareness for stock photographers and stock photography to make the internet a place where women can find images that represent themselves and not what the media and entertainment and editorial thought a woman should look like. So that's
Right.
probably one of my proudest moments, but it all culminated by having tough clients who challenged.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Any final questions? Well, I have a final question. You just shared a pretty proud experience for you, Evan. But Leen or Jordan, do you have a task, achievement, or relevant experience that you're most proud of?
Well, mine's gonna sound a little cheesy, but
That's fine.
being the business manager of the Daily Collegian is something that I'm proud of every single day. You guys can't imagine how many college media organizations I talk to, and the minute I'm like, yeah, I was the business manager at the Daily Collegian, they're like, oh my goodness, you guys are so impressive. You have the best website. You guys are role models to us. And so for me, working at the Daily Collegian is the thing I'm most proud of, and I think I'm gonna be most proud of for a really, really long time.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't, for this, it's tough for me because I don't, I mean, I feel like every step I've been able to take and places I've been fortunate enough to land at has kind of been another a bit of a dream come true. I know it sounds cliched, but I mean, I remember subscribing to the Wall Street Journal like as a 25-year-old and I, just to get smarter about the industry, which by the way, as another piece of advice, you should read your shit. Pardon the French, but pay attention to the industry. Sign up for a bunch of newsletters, like get hands dirty as to what's going on. Ad Age, Ad Week, newsletters, Journal, CMO Today, stuff like that. Anyway, but like just like landing a job in my 30s at the Journal, which brand wise, I know it's corny and it's maybe stuffy to some, but for me, it was a great moment, and it opened up for me an opportunity to then go bring a whole new level of ideas to partners that we worked with, and not just like endemic, not just your MetLifes and your Fidelities, but we did a program for Netflix when they launched Narcos, if anyone ever saw that show, and we basically created it was called Cocainenomics, and that was we won a Cannes Lion for that, and that was sort of our big moment, and it was just the great part was being able to think and act natively and act on behalf of the way that the Journal at the time created content and told stories, and do it for a brand. It was almost easy, believe it or not, because it was what we should be doing as that brand. And so, I think, putting yourself in those positions to have fun and to win and to do what, you've been trained to do. And then to just turn it all on its head, and to go chase sort of something that, you haven't done before, or your company hasn't done before. Those are the opportunities, and no one's gonna tell you when to do it and how to do it, and when to Evan's point, when to speak up in a meeting or not. But you've got to sort of bring all that energy and enthusiasm, everything that got you to Penn State in the first place. You're already ahead of the game just by landing there. So now take advantage of that. Don't sit back. Take advantage of it. Be aggressive about it, and take advantage of every single step that you take. Every job 1, job 2, job 3, every experience, every new day. Because those are all things you'll be able to leverage, believe it or not, even if you don't see it at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that is 8 o'clock and that's our time. So thank you guys so much for coming. We really all appreciate you taking time out of your busy lives to come speak with us and give us some of the knowledge and experience you've had. And it's really, really awesome for you guys to do that for us. I put the panelists' emails in the chat, so they're all very open for you guys reaching out to them with any questions that you might have after this meeting. But yeah, so honestly, thank you guys so much. Connect with them on LinkedIn, like they said. I can't wait to apply what I've learned tonight to the Collegian and to get working on a lot of the things we discussed, because you guys brought up a lot of really great ideas and projects that we can work on, just to make what we're kind of moving towards our move towards a more stronger digital presence and monetizing those things, and also just kind of being more ingrained in the school community and looking at our consumers more. I think those are all really, really great points that I definitely had to write down, and I will be reading your book, or not your book, but the book that you recommended. So thank you guys so much. Stack, do you have anything? Nope. All right.
No, it's all yours. Thank you. You did a
Okay.
great job, Davis.
So we'll just, I don't know if you wanted to send the recording or put it somewhere.
Davis, we can so Stack, you'll get it kicked to you probably in an email. If you guys want it, Davis, we can
Yes.
yeah, we can share it with you, and then we usually post it onto the Collegian AIG site as well. But you guys don't go on that site, so we'll share it with you if you want to kick it around to your teams on your end.
Yeah, I would love to, because I know some people wanted to be here tonight but couldn't make it, so I want to make sure they can get what we talked about. So yeah, thank you guys, everybody, for coming, and have a great rest of your nights.
Okay,
Davis.
good night.
Thanks, Evan. Thanks,
Everybody.
have a good night, everybody.